On day 21, we'll go to Shark Valley Visitor Center for the Everglades National Park, and then we'll take an airboat tour before heading to Miami to spend the night. We head out really early so we can get to Shark Valley Visitor Center when it opens. We'll be driving along the Tamiami Trail today, much of which we did yesterday. And we arrive at Shark Valley Visitor Center before it opens.
In a quarter mile, your destination will be on the right.
Over there by one of the canals, that's a great blue heron. After the visitor center opens, we'll walk down the Bobcat Trail. It's a boardwalk through a mangrove marsh. And over there, that's our first alligator. Shark Valley is located in the northern part of the Everglades, and we'll look at this part. We're mainly going to be taking the Shark Valley Tram, which runs along this route, going down the East Road and up the West Road.
South Florida's landscape is flat as a pancake. A change in elevation of only a few inches can make the difference between flood and drought. The quantity of water in this river is important not only to the cypress trees around us, but to all of the forms of life in the Everglades. Too much water and wildlife may drown. Too little and life simply cannot persist.
These are the type vehicles that we'll be riding in. They're rather loud and windy, and so sometimes you can hear our guide and sometimes you can't. Taylor will be our driver and Ricky will be our guide, and I'll talk when he's not able to.
I want to formally welcome you to Everglades National Park, Shark Valley, the third largest national park in the continental United States. We are number 3 at 1.5 million acres. Number 2 is Yellowstone at 2.2 million acres. And number 1 is, some of it's in Nevada, some of it's in California. There's a valley in the name. Death Valley's number 1, yes, at 3.8 million acres. We have 2 different seasons out here. We have the wet season and the dry season. The dry season starts at about December and goes all the way to about the beginning of May. The wet season starts at about mid-May and goes all the way to the end of November. So those are our 2 seasons, the wet season and the dry season. In the dry season, the end of it, the floor of the prairie is going to dry out like it is now. Those borrow pits, the first borrow pit that we just passed, all 4 of them on this side will never dry out because they're between 20 to 25 feet deep. It's an awesome feeding place for some of these birds and alligators. We got another alligator right here. Technical word, saw sedge. Sawgrass takes up 80% of the Everglades, and if you touch this sawgrass, you'd have to touch it from the ground up, never from the top down. If you touch it from the top down, you get a nasty paper cut because of the serrated edges on this grass. Now, if you walk through the floor of the prairie without the proper clothing, this sawgrass can actually rip through your clothing.
There are 4 types of tree islands here: the bayhead, the cypress head, the willow head, and the hardwood hammock. We're going to look at all of them. First, the bayhead. The bayhead is on slightly elevated land, about a foot high, and it consists of many different types of bays. There's lots of creepy crawly things in there because it's very thick there and the birds can't get in there to eat them. Here we see a pair of alligators. The larger one is the male, and it is breeding season in May. I'll let Ricky explain the coastal plain Willowhead.
This is an alligator pool party going on right here. This is called the Coastal Plain Willowhead. And this is where the alligators are going to find water 365 days a year. Now, for those of you that know about plants, willow trees need to grow on what, guys? Water, right? And underneath that water in this tree island, there's what? That limestone rock we were talking about, that's the bedrock of Florida, right? Now, what happens here is these wispy-looking leaves drop off into the water, making tannic acid. Year after year, that limestone rock gets softened up, and year after year, these alligators dig a deeper and deeper pool of water. In doing so, these alligators are known as a keystone species, meaning they're making a home for other animals such as snakes, frogs, fish, and turtles in this pool of water right here. It's this. Right about 10 o'clock, that's this tree island with the dark green trees, the leaves with that triangle shape to it. This is called the hardwood hammock. And the hardwood hammock, in my opinion, out of the four that we're going to learn about, the hardwood hammock is the most interesting tree island we're going to learn about. Why? This is where the Native Americans that lived here prior to the 1940s, the Miccosukee Indians would call hardwood hammocks like this their home. Why? And you walk right in the middle of that tree island, on a hot day like today, it's about 10 degrees cooler. Also, the Native Americans wouldn't want to keep their feet wet all day in this water, right? You walk right in the middle of this tree island, there's a rise in elevation of about 6 to 8 feet. So you see, it's perfect for them to live in, right? Because they can keep their feet dry 365 days a year. Also, a family would use 3 of these at one time. They would use one to cook in, one to eat in, and one to sleep in. They would never mix any of the 3 for obvious reasons, right? You're not going to sleep where you prepare your food because, you know, you wake up in the middle of the night and you're eye to eye with a black bear or a Florida panther. That'd be bad news. Some of these hardwood hammocks can span half a mile to a mile long, and a whole village will be living inside one of them. This bird is the last bird to leave when a hurricane hits. It's the first bird back after a hurricane has left. So that's why this bird is the mascot for the University of Miami Hurricanes. The white ibis are tactile feeders, meaning they have very sensitive beaks and they have a sloped down beak, so they almost go down like a sewing machine into the water, probing the water for any crustaceans, fish, etc. in this mud and ragged mud. So we're coming up on the 4th and final tree island we're going to learn about. On our left, we have a cypress dome. Dome works a lot like the coastal plain willowhead in that the needles of these trees drop off into the water, making tannic acid, and year after year, alligators dig a deeper and deeper pool of water. We know this because if you look right in the middle of this tree island, you'll notice the trees are a lot taller, right? Why is that? That's because the roots of these trees can dig deeper into the calcitic mud called laurel. And why are they dwarfed or stunted closer to us? That's because the limestone rock is stopping the roots of these trees closer to us, right? These trees, they look like they're dying, these shorter, skinnier ones closer to us, but they're not. All the trees in this cypress dome are between 100 to 150 years old. If you guys look on the bottom of these trees, you'll notice a dark mark. What is that? That's how high the water got last year in the wet season. So the Native Americans would use that dark mark as an indicator of how high to build their cheeky huts the year after, so they wouldn't get flooded out, right? Pretty smart, right? Also, they would use the wood for these trees for their canoes. Why? This wood is really sturdy. This wood is waterproof, termite resistant, and fire resistant.
This gunk you see everywhere is called periphyton. It's on the dry ground, it's in the water. It's the most important thing here. It's a mixture of algae that feed the fish and also filters the water out. You can tell the female anhingas from the males because the females have brown necks and the males have black necks.
Well, we have one immature little blue heron and a little blue heron right here. Now, immature little blue herons, blue herons when they're young, they're born all white, and as they mature, they turn all blue. Like this one right here. That one over there has that tie-dye effect going on with the blue and white, so it's a juvenile. That taller wading bird, that's the great blue heron. The little blue heron will never become a great blue heron, two totally different species of birds.
Little blue.
So you see that little blue heron, one of my favorite birds. Once it's fully mature, it'll be 5 different shades of blue on its feathers. So we got a great egret right here, the second tallest wading bird in the park. This all-white bird stands at 3 feet and a wingspan of about 5 feet. This bird was hunted extensively in the early 1900s. People were coming out here by the hundreds to slaughter this bird by the thousands. And why? It was for its feathers, for women's hats.
Now we're approaching the far end of the road and our turnaround point, the observation tower. This will be giving us a good look over the entire area around us. On the way back, we take another route, and while we're going, the guide will share about Burmese pythons, which have destroyed 98% of the mammal population here in the park. First one was seen in 1979, and now there are about 300,000 in the park. People are paid to go Burmese python hunting. You get $8 an hour, plus a 4-footer brings you $100, and a $25 bonus for every foot after that. This alligator has probably been injured in a fight with another alligator for a female. Next we come upon a group of baby alligators. They're about 2 years old. They stay with their mother until about 3 years old, and then they're kicked out because they start to become predatory on the younger alligators. This soft-shell turtle is laying eggs. This anhinga nest has 3 young chicks in them. They're about a month old. They're born white and slowly turn black during their fledging. They grow to about the size of their mother within about a month, and within 2 months they're kicked out of the nest. Now it's time to leave Shark Valley and to head to our airboat tour. We had scheduled and prepaid for a tiger tail airboat ride, but it's closed when we get there, and the phone has been disconnected, so we're not able to take that ride. We still do want to take an airboat ride, so we decide to go to another place and see if they have an opening that we can just jump on. Along the way, we pass some of the floodgates that are used to control the water that flows from the left to the right across this area. Coopertown is one of the other airboat ride tours. It says it's the original. I'm not sure which one's best, but we're going to be taking it. They have an opening. This is what it looks like from the air. They have a airboat ride departing very soon after we arrive, so we get ready to get on the boat. These are the large airboats that us and a few other people will be using. And then it's time to back out of our mooring area and head up the canal. For the most part, I'll just be letting you look as we head out, for it's a beautiful scenery. And this is our group that are heading out, and our guide. I'm not sure what his name is. Let's go.
The Everglades. The Everglades is also known by another name. It is known as the River of Grass, and it's actually one of the slowest moving rivers in the world. It flows at approximately 1 mile per day. It comes down from Lake Okeechobee and West Palm Beach all the way to the beautiful Florida Keys. And it's approximately 125 miles long by 60 miles wide. In its total, it is 7.5 million acres. Out of that, 1.5 million acres belongs to the Everglades National Park, which we're in right now. Now, the Everglades are composed about 70% sawgrass, a few other types of grass like meadow grass, which is right next to the boat, and hardwood hammocks, with 30% is water. Sawgrass is a 3-side serrated edge leaf. If you run your fingers with the grain, you're okay. If you go against the grain, it can actually cut you down.
The large alligators don't seem to be very frightened of us. In fact, they come right up to our boat.
Speeds of 25 to 35 miles per hour. If they really want to, they can jump out of the water the full length of their bodies plus 2 feet. Meaning that alligator right there can easily get inside this boat. Why do you think the driver sits all the way up here? Sorry guys, somebody has to bring our boat back. Any questions?
Got you, bro. I got you.
You notice the trees that look like they have pineapple tops growing on them. They're families of the bromeliads, air plants. The unique thing about them, they need no soil to grow. They'll take everything they need from the environment around them, like the early morning dew, the mist, and the decaying tree leaves. The trees themselves are called the pond apple trees. They grow fruit that looks kind of like an apple. It tastes similar to a mango mixed with a cantaloupe. If you eat the fruit when it's green, it can act like a perfect laxative. It can put you in
After our airboat ride, we eat some hamburgers there at Coopertown, and they're really good. And then we head on down the Tamiami Trail to Miami. We'll actually be staying in Kendall for the next few days. We'll be staying in the Comfort Suites in Miami and Kendall. And this brings us to the end of day 21.